Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Now I know that building your own PC is far better value for money than purchasing a pre-built one, and I'm sure most of you guys know that as well, unless you can find a good deal on a pre-assembled system. Today though, I thought we'd take a look at Dell's cheapest new Inspiron pre-built desktop just out of interest and see what's inside. Now, if you guys don't mind, of course, I'd like to take a look at a few more pre-builts in some videos just because I want to try and cater to more of you out there. You know, some of you don't feel confident building your own PC, or some of you just want something for basic usage. So if I can help in any way by reviewing some of the pre-builts out there, then I'd love to be able to do that more often. But of course, let me know what you think of the video down below at the end once everything is said and done. So let's get into it and see what's inside the Dell 3671. So I've split this into a few categories to help paint a clearer picture of all the Dell Inspiron 3670, or the new desktop PC as Dell call it, has to offer. These are style and looks, which is totally subjective, what's included, specs, performance, value for money and upgradability. To a basic user, the last point on that list may not matter too much, but we'll see what you could do in the future should this machine start to get a little sluggish. That's if it's not sluggish already. So looking at this PC externally, and I really do think it's a very smart tower. Black and silver is just my cup of tea, and whether this is on or under any desk it will look good. Dell do offer an even smaller variant, the Inspiron Small Desktop, which can be configured cheaper, but the i3 version has 4 gigs of RAM and possibly less upgrade potential. This is the cheapest full-size desktop currently on the Dell site, if you could count this as full size, of course. So what do you get in the box? Well, I can't speak for anywhere but the UK, so I'll tell you what I got in the box. I got a lot of cardboard, some plastic, and a Dell mouse, which feels okay if not a bit light. Not to mention the keyboard, which has individual island style keys. It actually feels quite nice under the fingertips. A mouse and keyboard in the box is always a welcome inclusion. Even if a basic set doesn't cost all that much, it's a thoughtful bonus nonetheless. No monitor with this one, unless you pay a little bit more. So let's get down to the nitty gritty. What lies inside this new Inspiron desktop? What components await as we take off the side panel? Suspense building internally with the force of 1,000 hammers. Okay, let's not get too excited. Inside this machine, it's a pretty basic as expected situation, but it's quite tidy with decent cable management because in reality there aren't that many cables to manage. Dell have used a custom motherboard with proprietary connectors. There are no leftover cables, so adding a traditional SSD to this config yourself isn't doable unless you replace the HDD. You can, however, make use of the M.2 slot to upgrade the overall capacity and maybe reinstall the operating system on there for faster boot times, something which I would probably recommend. Under this large plastic cone atop the CPU fan is a Core i3 9100, the standard 9100 with integrated UHD 630 Intel graphics. This is a 3.6 GHz quad-core processor with a turbo speed of 4.2. I've tested the 9100F before, a lower cost version, and in my opinion it's a pretty decent little chip. What I will say is that the 9100 is overpriced. The 9100F is definitely the one to go for if you are building your own PC, because it is just as fast at a much lower price. That being said, Dell have probably used the non-F version because of the integrated GPU, which is of course necessary when there is no discrete graphics card included. For the RAM, we've got a single stick of 2400 MHz DDR4. 8 gigs to be precise. This is more than enough for everyday tasks and basic computing, though some games will require a little more to run at their best. I need to get gaming out of my head as it's not the focus with a computer like this, but I just can't help it. 2400 MHz is the fastest speed the CPU supports according to the Intel website, and in some ways a single 8GB stick is a blessing, as it means there is room for upgrade in the future. We've also got a traditional 1TB hard drive and a laptop style optical drive. Optical drives are likely to be a thing of the past in the not so distant future, and some may consider them obsolete at the moment, which is a shame if you ask me, as I still have a ton of disc-based games and a poor coastal internet connection, so downloading anything takes a while. This Dell Inspiron also comes with Wi-Fi built in that offers a fairly strong signal. All this is powered by a 290W 80 plus bronze rated power supply. It's more than enough for the specs, but as I said before, it offers no free cables to add anything else. A bit of a shame, but not much of a loss to this PC's target audience, most of whom will probably never take the side panel off, let alone upgrade. So how does it perform? Well, booting up the machine and the only thing you'll hear is the 7200 RPM Western Digital spinning up, so immediately from an acoustics point of view it's very quiet. The boot up time as expected is hindered by the mechanical hard drive, and because I had to put up with it, I thought I'd let you experience it too. This footage was taken from the moment I clicked restart. The machine had been turned on and off multiple times beforehand, and all of the what some may call bloatware has been installed. In total, it takes around a minute or just over, but then you have to factor in the time it takes from login to the desktop, which is another short while. I don't think the bundled software, most of which likely unwanted, helps that much either. Some may welcome the inclusion of McAfee, but I'm not a fan. Once everything has settled down, actually using this PC feels snappy enough. I said it before, but I do think the i3-9100 is a good CPU, despite not really being complemented by the single stick of RAM. I did install an SSD at one point, which made things a lot better, just to see what sort of performance improvement I got, and the experience was a very fluid one. Let's take a look at the Cinebench multi-core result, for example. With a score of 1197, the i3 can be compared to older Sandy or Ivy Bridge i5s from a few years ago, which is nothing to be sniffed at, but they can be found at a very low price. All of this brings me on to my next point: value for money. Now, we all know that building your own PC is the best way to get the most from your budget, but for some people a pre-built is more convenient and an easier option. So let's talk about other pre-assembled manufacturer supplied machines and how they compare price-wise. Obviously, if you're considering something like this Dell, then you probably do want a pre-built, and the market is full of them. In the UK, this Dell Inspiron costs £479 from Dell as is. In the US, well, it seems to be far more competitive at $399, with Windows 10 Home included for everyone. This price may differ at third-party retailers. For example, at a Curry's PC World here in the UK, you can pick it up for $379 at the specific time of upload. In my opinion, for a Dell pre-built this isn't too bad, but let's consider the other aforementioned options. I'll throw a few examples up on screen. Now, I can't speak for the rest of the world, but you should be able to find some great competitive deals at other online retailers, and some e-tailers will build a PC to order for you. Or, maybe you should take this opportunity to build your own. It's a great time to do so, and look what you could build for the same price. Sorry, I just had to slip that in there. I've no doubt that there are pre-assembled machines out there with better upgrade potential too, and that brings me on to that very specific point. What another excellent and smooth transition, if I do say so myself. So this specific config ships with the i3, but should that get a little slow for you in the future, then you could swap this out for an i5 or maybe even an i7. It can of course be configured that way to begin with for an extra premium. It may be cheaper though to do it yourself in a few years, rather than pay for better specs now, so bear that in mind. This machine, according to PC World, also supports up to 32 gigs of RAM, but I'd say 16 is more of a sensible upgrade path and should be the sweet spot for a few years yet. But here's my main gripe, and why other pre-built PCs on the market may make more sense: the graphics card upgrade potential. Say you do buy this and decide you want to play games, you're going to need a better graphics card. Sure, the i3 has integrated graphics, but they aren't up to much, not compared to the integrated graphics of a new Athlon or Ryzen APU anyway. If this did become the case, then you'd be very limited on options and have to go for something that could run on a 290 watt PSU and require no extra connectors. Something like a GTX 1050 springs to mind. But there isn't too much else, and that is another area where other competitors may set themselves apart. Is the Dell 3670 a good home PC for basic use? Yes, it does the job okay. Should you buy one? Well, only you can answer that. Hopefully, if you're on the lookout for a pre-built, then this review answers that question. Personally, I'd look out for competitively priced units with an SSD from the factory, even if the capacity is smaller, and maybe I'd look around for systems with AMD AM4 based processors instead, as the future upgrade path would be better and most likely cheaper. Hopefully you've enjoyed the look inside Dell's, at the time of this video, cheapest new Inspiron desktop. Be sure to let me know what you think of it down below. I can imagine some of the comments already. If you enjoyed this look inside Dell's new desktop PC, leave a like on this video. Leave a dislike if you didn't enjoy this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And hopefully I'll see all of you in the next one.